So in today's video, we're gonna be talking about the 21 highest paying work from home jobs, and this is going to be without a doubt the best video available on the internet. And this is something where if you really pay attention to this and you get one of these jobs, it can literally change your life in 3 months. Many people have done this. There's interviews on my channel of people who have gotten jobs in 10 days, 14 days. There's even a 16-year-old who was able to get a job using these methods that I'm gonna talk about in this video. And this is gonna give you a bunch of different options for really good remote or work from home jobs. And this is gonna be 100% backed by the best data available on the internet, as well as my own experience helping a bunch of people get these types of jobs. So if you appreciate this type of content, go ahead, cheers the like button, and let's get right into it. All right, so just a few years ago, I was actually stuck working like 13-hour shifts during the pandemic because I worked in healthcare. I was extremely stressed out, I was burned out, I was pretty depressed, and I had anxiety and all those things that you can talk about. And this was after doing everything right, going to school, getting a doctorate, becoming a pharmacist, right? I did everything that all the experts say that you should do. Yet I felt trapped in an endless cycle of eat, sleep, work, repeat. Then I finally decided to change things and I tried working remote for the first time. I went to Puerto Rico with my best friend, John. I met a bunch of other people who were also working remote. I had an amazing time as well, and my life was never the same again. And after doing this, I knew there was absolutely no way I could ever go back to working like a normal 9-to-5 job where you go into the office. And there are so many benefits of working from home or working remote that I'm going to go over in this video as I present these different options to you. And chances are, depending on your personality, many of these options are going to be really good for you. So there's gonna be great options if you're introverted, extroverted. There's gonna be really good options if you're somebody who's artistic or somebody who's analytical. There's also gonna be great options if you're somebody who's really ambitious, or you're somebody who just wants a super chill job where you can just live the rest of your life without having to worry about money. So the first one is going to be copywriting. And I'm gonna tell a story about someone who I'm gonna call Jed. So Jed was basically a journalist. He was making about $60,000 a year, but he really did not want to continue doing journalism. It just wasn't something that interested him all that much. And so he looked for other opportunities in order to get paid for his writing skills. And the opportunity he found was copywriting. And he basically doubled his salary and he also enjoyed his job even more. So what exactly is copywriting? It's the ability to sell or market a product or service using the written word. Now, if you've ever gone to Amazon, the people who write the product descriptions are copywriters. If you ever, turn on your TV, the people that write the scripts for those advertisements are copywriters. And if you've ever looked at a video sales letter for an online course, the people who write those are also copywriters. And it's basically a way of communicating the value of your product or service in such a way where you prove to them that it's going to solve whatever problem that they have. And this is an insanely valuable skill. Not only right off the bat can you make money from it as a freelancer, so you can do it kind of as a side hustle, but you can also get a full-time job. And it's one of the best skills you could possibly learn if you want to start a business later on down the line. So if you're somebody who is really attracted to sales or marketing, but you don't really want to show yourself on camera, you want to do it more through the written word, copywriting can be amazing for you. Now, according to Glassdoor, copywriters make about $51,000 a year, but you have to understand this is the entry-level role, and also a lot of the copywriters that report probably just do it part-time. According to BLS, full-time copywriters make about $80,000 a year. Now, I'm going to give all of these a score from 1 to 10, with 10 being the best for getting a work-from-home remote job. And I can't give this one a 10 out of 10, even though it's a super valuable skill, just because of the fact that it is pretty hard to learn how to get good at copywriting. It is a skill you really have to work at. And so for that reason, it is going to take a little bit longer than some of the other ones on this list. And I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10 money score. Next on the list, we're going to talk about social media operations. And this isn't just an operations job. This is basically any job related to social media, because this is absolutely blowing up right now. And it's one of the industries that has the most opportunity. So for this one, I'm actually going to tell the story of my operations manager, Kat. And I actually didn't get permission from her to tell this story, so I'll keep it really vague. But basically, Kat runs the day-to-day operations within my business. And a lot of that does involve managing my social media profiles. And Kat's long-term goal is to actually start a social media company herself, and she's very open about that, and that's awesome. Some people think that you shouldn't tell employers about that, and I just could not disagree more. Employers, when they are on YouTube or anything like that, if they see you have a YouTube channel and you're making really quality videos, for instance, that is going to look incredibly attractive to them. And so Kat is basically getting paid to learn super valuable skills that align with her future goals. Good job, Kat. So if you look up social media operations on LinkedIn, there's about 7,000 job postings. And if you look it up on Glassdoor, they're making about $57,000 a year. Now this one is really good, but it's another one where it might take a little bit more time than a bunch of the other ones that I'm gonna put on this list. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 money score. Next one I'm gonna talk about is web development. And this is exactly what it sounds like. You're basically going to be writing code specifically for websites. So it's basically the easiest type of software development that you could possibly learn. And a lot of the time, people who start off in software development will learn web development or front-end development because it's kind of the easiest one to learn. It's not nearly as technical as back-end. Now, if you look up web development under jobs on LinkedIn, there's about 31,000 results. And if you look it up on Glassdoor, you make about $82,000 a year. And there are countless examples of people who have started off in software development by getting into web development first. It pays really well. It's relatively easy to get into. Now, the truth is this used to be one of those careers where, let's say on a scale from like 1 to 100 for your skill level, you could probably get into web development with like a 20 out of 100 skill level. Now you have to probably have something like a 40 or a 50 out of 100 in order to get into it. So you see a lot of people kind of complaining about how it's a lot harder to get into this now. But with that being said, if you use a lot of the methods that I tell you about on this channel, specifically making sure that you actually have pretty decent skills, creating a portfolio that clearly and easily showcases that you have those skills, and then sending that portfolio to the right people in such a way where it's much more engaging, which I talk about on this channel, you will be able to easily get a job in web development. And this is one you could probably get into in about 3 months or so. So this is a really good one, a little bit harder than some of the other ones on this list that are basically like a cheat code. So I will give it a 9 out of 10 money score. Next on the list is going to be tech sales. And one person who I interviewed on my channel who was able to get into tech sales was Kevin. And he was basically a laid off construction worker. So he was making really good money in construction, but the jobs were kind of like hit or miss. Like he'd get a job and then he'd have a few weeks or a month where he wasn't working. So it was pretty good money, but it was also relatively hit or miss and it wasn't stable. And then the pandemic came and he got laid off, and there was a long period where he could not find any work. And so he got on the internet, he started looking into different careers that had a lot of opportunity, and tech sales popped up. And he was able to get a job in tech sales in a very short amount of time. I believe it was actually 29 days. So this is currently one of my favorite careers. I mean, this is basically a cheat code. There is so much demand in the market right now for people who have this skill set. And this is one of the ones that I recommend the most right now on this channel. Now, I know everybody is kind of like freaking out about the tech layoffs, even though it's just like a very small percentage of people who are actually laid off. And it tends to be at the bigger companies who, you know, let's be honest, they hired way too many people and they didn't have work for them. But tech sales is probably one of the most recession-proof jobs you can get. And the reason for that is because people who are on the sales or the marketing team directly contribute to the company's bottom line. Whereas there's a lot of positions out there that are kind of like infrastructure or operations, that sort of thing. And those are the positions that a lot of the time will end up getting cut first. Not to say they aren't important, but companies prioritize things differently in a recession. Now, this definitely is not for everybody. There's a lot of people who kind of look into tech sales and they decide that it's really not the best thing for them, but it can be phenomenal for the right person. And I would say if I really just wanted to make it to $100,000 a year as fast as possible, if I was 18 right now and I literally just wanted to make it to $100,000 a year as fast as I possibly could, tech sales is the one I would go for. So according to Glassdoor, technology sales representative, which by the way is the entry-level position, they make almost $90,000 a year. So this one is without a doubt one of the best on the entire list. I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10. Next, let's talk about the one that I would personally do if I was 18 right now and I wanted to get into the job market, and that is digital marketing. So I told you about the 16-year-old James who was able to get a job, and he lives in Australia where they allow 16-year-olds to work. And he basically was thinking, should I go to college? Should I go to, you know, trade school? Like, what should I get into? And he looked around a lot and he found digital marketing, and he thought it was a really cool skill. He thought it, you know, matched his personality. It also had a ton of demand and he could get into it relatively quickly. So he tried to get into it and he was able to land a job at 16 years old. Obviously, he did not have any previous work experience because he was a 16-year-old, and he was still able to land a job because he did the things that I recommend on this channel. First of all, he found an in-demand valuable skill that matches his personality. Then he learned some of the core fundamentals of what you need to know in order to get into that skill. And then he showcased a portfolio that very clearly showed that he actually knew those skills in such a way where it's easy for people to find it. And then he applied to the right companies and he sent them that portfolio. And he was very easily able to land a job at 16 years old. And I believe he was making over $40,000 a year. And on top of it, he was only working part-time. So he was only working 30 hours per week because he was busy with other things. Now, if you look up digital marketing on LinkedIn, this does fluctuate quite a bit, but there's over 160,000 results. And if you look up digital marketing on Glassdoor at the entry level, it's about $60,000 a year. So yeah, this is the one that I would personally choose just because it matches kind of my skill set and what my goals are in life if I was 18 right now. You're probably gonna make a little bit less money than tech sales, but you can still make it to that six-figure mark within about 3 to 4 years. This one gets a 10 out of 10 score as well. Okay, next one on the list, I'm actually gonna combine two different ones, and that is IT help desk as well as IT security, also known as cybersecurity. So the reason I'm combining these is because I wanna put as many really good options on the list as I possibly can, but this is another one of the best options you can possibly go for. I would argue this might be one of the easiest ways for you to possibly break into the technology industry without going into sales. And one of the reasons why you want to break into the technology industry is because very simply, it's probably the best industry you can possibly work in. It has the most opportunity, the best benefits, the best pay, the best work-life balance, the best ability to get remote jobs, etc., etc. Now, the best thing about the majority of entry-level IT careers is they absolutely do not require a college degree. If you get a college degree, great. That's another great way to get into IT, but they do not require one. And in many cases, you can get in with a certificate. And in a lot of cases, which I've actually talked about on this channel, you can get in even without certificates. Now, there is a plethora of different IT-related jobs. One of them would be IT security specialist. If you put that in on LinkedIn, you're gonna see 8,000 results. If you type in IT security specialist on Glassdoor, you're gonna see $83,000 a year. And again, keep in mind, this is the entry-level role. There's tons of other jobs you can move into that pay much better than that. So yeah, IT is phenomenal. This one gets a 10 out of 10 career score from me. Next, let's talk about something that isn't technology related, and that is going to be travel agent. Now, this is one that, again, you can definitely get into it without a college degree, and there are many examples of people who have had successful careers doing this. It's also one that you can do part-time, right? So you can do it kind of on the side, even as a business side hustle. You can do it part-time, or you can do it full-time if you want. Now, if you type in travel agent on LinkedIn, there's over 60,000 results. Now, you can differentiate yourself as a travel agent by specializing in certain areas. So let's say you live in an area of the world that a ton of people want to travel to. You can actually differentiate yourself as a travel agent by living in that area and kind of knowing all the best attractions. And basically what you'd be doing is you would be helping to book flights, book hotels, tell people where all the best attractions are, kind of like maybe even make a little bit of a timeline for them when certain places are open, etc. Now, according to Glassdoor, travel agents make about $48,000 a year. This one is also a little bit harder to break into. So you're probably not going to be able to break into this one in 3 months and start making like $50,000. But I did want to include this one on the list because I have seen a lot of people be successful with it. So for that reason, it's still a pretty good one, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 career score. Next on the list is going to be graphic design. This is one that can be extremely good if you go into the right niches and you learn the right skills. So for instance, let's say you're somebody who specializes in YouTube thumbnail design. That is going to make you much more valuable than a general freelance graphic designer. But honestly, I think you should specialize even further. Let's say you're somebody who really likes watching personal finance content on YouTube. You can specialize in personal finance thumbnail design. Because let's be honest, all of the different niches on YouTube are slightly different in terms of what works to get people to click the videos. So I get people literally reaching out to me every day trying to be like my thumbnail designer on YouTube, and I'll look at their portfolio and they have like graphic design stuff in their portfolio that has nothing to do with YouTube. And a lot of the time, if they do have thumbnail content, it'll be like a Minecraft video or something like that, right? And that isn't gonna attract me that much as somebody who's sort of in the personal finance niche. So this one can be good if you niche down enough, and the way you wanna do that is basically just look at what you watch a lot of on YouTube, right? So if you're very familiar with certain niches on YouTube, that would be the type of thumbnail design that you would wanna do. So you really wanna niche down even further. But overall, something like thumbnail design does take a long time to get good at. It's something where you might design something that looks pretty, but it doesn't actually get the clicks, right? And unfortunately, that's just not gonna work. So there is an artistic and a technical side of thumbnail design because you have to get really good at Photoshop, but there's also a little bit of a marketing side as well. So for that reason, this one is gonna get a 3 out of 10 money and career score from me. Next on the list is very similar, but a little bit better in my opinion, and that is going to be video editor. Now, personal brands are absolutely taking off. You've probably seen like Mr. Beast, for instance, he was offered $1 billion for his brand. He turned it down. Gary Vee basically said that he shouldn't accept anything under $10 billion. And honestly, even that might be too little. You've seen these creators launch $100 million brands with a single video. So the creator economy is just incredible. I mean, there's literally, channels where it's just somebody in their kitchen recording videos that are getting more views than an entire news network. And they have no idea how to monetize it yet. This is just at the infancy right now. Creators like that, a lot of the time are only making like $10,000, $20,000 a month, but pretty soon they're gonna be making $100,000, maybe even $1 million a month because they're not properly monetizing their brand. Whereas these news networks are getting less views, but they're making like $100 million a year. So when it comes to video editing, this is another one where you really need to niche down. So another example of this, I'll just use personal finance again. You want to learn how to edit videos, obviously on YouTube. So if you're reaching out to YouTubers to try to get a job with them, do not send them your wedding videos. That is not going to impress any YouTubers. What you want to do instead is send them YouTube videos that you've edited. And the easiest way to do that is to just start your own YouTube channel. And then of course, if you are able to edit videos for other YouTubers, that's great as well. And if you want to appear even more valuable, edit videos for other YouTubers that are in the same niche. Because again, every single niche has different personalities and sort of like a different meta of what works. And there's this thing that's emerging on YouTube called retention editing. And this is basically where you get people to stay on your videos while they're on YouTube. So basically you're just making the videos a little more engaging and you increase the retention of the video, which makes YouTube, send it out to more people. So this one is an incredible one to get into, but video editing in general is saturated. But if you niche down, you do what I say on this channel, this one can be incredible. But overall, video editing in general, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. But if you niche down, like I said, this one could be like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Next one on the list is going to be an insurance agent. Now, this is another one of those where you can get into it relatively easily. And essentially what you're going to be doing is you're gonna be talking to people who are interested in insurance, and you're gonna be trying to convince them to buy your company's insurance or figure out what the best type of insurance is for them. Now, this one can be a little bit sketchy because some of the insurance companies can try to get people to buy insurance that they don't need, right? So a lot of the time, the best insurance to buy is just gonna be term insurance, but they'll try to get you to buy like whole life insurance. But with that being said, I'm not being biased in this video. I'm just telling you which jobs are relatively easy to get into. So if you look on LinkedIn, this one has about 69,000 results. And if you look on Glassdoor, you're gonna see they make about $70,000 a year. So yeah, this is a little bit of a soul-sucking job if you ask me, but if you need to get a job right away, this can be a good one. I'll give it overall a 4 out of 10.